Good evening, everyone. Can you see us decently well? I guess you'll just bend side to side. Yeah, got some pillars here in church. All right, well, welcome. Special welcome to Wendell, all the way from Meadville, Pennsylvania. So, Wendell, would you tell us about your family first of all?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Gary. I came without my family on this trip because this is our last week of school, and I have 4 children, and they're all in school, and so there's the track and field and the picnic and things they shouldn't miss, and that's just too bad. I wish they were here. My wife, Janelle, and then our children, Lucas is 15 and Dante is 13, 2 boys. Then we have 2 girls. Zoe is 11 and Maya is 7, and they're the best.
All right, so what are some things that you like to do together as a family, either musically or something totally disconnected to music?
Things we like to do together. We do enjoy singing together. We did a lot more of it during COVID, actually. Due to some things that happened there, we ended up in quarantine for 2 weeks, and so we got some hymnals and did a lot of singing then, and that was really good. Things we like to do now, we live close to a lake. We enjoy going there, and sometimes kayaking, and the boys go fishing, but I'm not really good at it, so that doesn't happen too much. And we really enjoy our church and activities there. And I'm trying to think what else. Some games, not a lot of games. We're more of a sit around and talk kind of family than sit around and play games. But we're working on that. Yeah.
Very well. Yeah, I wonder if we had bigger, better fish, maybe like your carp, the big 2-footers. They're not worth a thing, right? Oh, okay. All right.
Well, so the lake it's an artificial lake. It has a dam, and like 15 years ago, the dam failed, and so all the wildlife, in the lake died, and so or went to upstate New York, so yeah, they're not very nice fish yet, but hopefully in a few years.
Very well. So a little bit of an overview, maybe, or getting to know Wendell here. So maybe switching over to music in our setting, maybe words you might have for us, since this is the occasion, you're here with us. So we have barely 50 years of harmony singing to our name and our history. I don't know, I guess prior to that, it was considered either worldly or unnecessary. And so we might be quick to point out some of the benefits of harmony singing. Are there some... so go ahead if you want to share some benefits, or maybe even, how could it negatively affect the health of the spiritual health of the congregation? Is there such a thing?
Well, yeah, I definitely have friends who are in unison singing traditions where they would just sing one part, and not necessarily slow style. It might still be somewhat more robust in terms of speed, and for them, it's highly symbolic of unity in the church. And I've heard defenders of 4-part music kind of use a similar thing, like it's a beautiful picture of different people working together and making a beautiful sound. And so what it feels like to me is that everybody has a certain position that they like, and they'll find ways to make it sound good. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I think that if somebody has a position, it's worth finding out the reasons why it's good and what's beneficial about it. And if there are images or symbols in that particular style that can be a part of the thought processes of a congregation, then that's great. So if you sing in unison and that helps you feel like one body, that's good. I support that. If you sing in parts because that feels like, we are many members in one body, yet not all members have the same office, and I think that verse may have been out of context right there, but that idea, that concept, that we're not all the same. And, so I would say this, one of the challenges of unison singing is range. So, some of us have low voices and some of us have high voices. Most of us have kind of in the middle voices. Mine is high. I wish I could sing bass. I told the choir when I get to heaven, I'm going to sing all 4 parts. But if I can't do that, I'll sing at the same time. But if not, I'll take bass because I can't sing bass. Well, the challenge of unison singing is that it excludes some songs because they would just be too high for some of the singers or too low, depending on where the melody would go. What I have seen happen in traditions that have been singing four parts, but then the congregations are maybe struggling a bit, they're not getting it, so they'll bring in a piano or guitar or something, is that the key, and this is documentable, you can see this in hymnals. If you compare hymnals from the early 20th century to hymnals that are produced today and compare the key of the same song, they're going down on average. The songs are getting pitched lower, and that's to accommodate unison singing. And I feel like there's a loss there. Like God gave us collectively a range, a vocal range. If everybody had my voice range, like everybody, I'm sorry to think about the songs we couldn't sing. And that level of beauty and so forth. So I confess, I'm a fan of four-part music. I endorse it. I think there are good reasons for it. I think it's fun. And one of the things that I really am a big supporter of is just the acknowledgement that when there is somebody who enjoys music, this can be a father, a mother, a school teacher, a Sunday school teacher, a fellow church person, if they're enjoying it. Like if it's something that they're doing that's fun, that's gold culturally, because that's going to be attractive. That's going to be so much more attractive to the next generation than a sermon about why I should sing. So that's one thing that I like about that the beauty of that. I would say, though, that the entry barriers to singing in four parts are high. And we should talk about them and we should acknowledge them. It's harder. I told the chapel today up at the printing center, yes, that singing in four parts is harder than singing in unison. I mean, it's probably about 4 times harder if I would round it off to the nearest whole number. Yeah.
Very good. So one of the benefits of four-part harmony is just the enjoyment, just the fun, the experiences that it creates. Yeah. And so I guess a related idea here is, so we just sang a number of pretty lively Southern gospel, not necessarily like sure, it's some hymns, right? So we love those Southern gospel songs because they're so exciting, they're simple to sing. We know that the hymn has a very good place in church, and we know that it's likely not either or. But how would you help us balance this, or how would you help us wrestle with this?
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways you could approach the hymn gospel song discussion. I tend to be a both and person. However, I would say that that the different styles have different strengths, and that it may be an Esther thing as well. What I mean by that is Esther came into the kingdom for such a time as this, and the gospel song has been a really good bridge genre, a way of getting people activated musically. It tends to, because of the chorus that a gospel song has, it has more repetition. The bass line and tenor line, alto lines are usually easier to learn, so the entry barriers are lower in the gospel song. So I think it's a good launching point, and it's something that my life would be impoverished if there were certain gospel songs that I would never be allowed to sing again. That would just be really sad. Blessed Assurance, When Peace Like a River. There's just so many of these. Now, the thing about hymns, as we sort of understand them, and know that it's not clear sometimes the difference between the two. It blurs together a bit. But if we think about hymns, they tend to be a little more, possibly a little broader, not necessarily slower, although they can be. One of the things that to think about, just very practically right here in this space, is that this room is not as friendly toward hymn singing as it is gospel song. There are aspects of gospel song that are easier to do in this acoustic space. And so if saying, well, we should be singing all hymns all the time, could have a devastating effect on the sustainability of the singing culture here, and that's connected, and it's something I care deeply about. One of the things that I think about, I said you should enjoy music, it helps if somebody's having fun, and you might say, well, why do we need to have fun in church? Well, because I care about the next generation. I want them to find what I'm doing in worship to be attractive. I want it to be something that draws them like a magnet, like a lodestone we sang last night. That was great. I love it, the lodestone that draws them. Likewise, the success of the music that we bring into a certain physical space, the success or failure of it, the amount that the space helps it or hurts it, is also a strategy for the future generation. Are they coming here and having an experience that is meaningful, that is infectious, and sometimes the answer to that is the gospel song is going to do a better job.
Good. So we've recently been encouraged and we've become focused more on what is happening when we worship, what are the songs that we pick, and so we know in our Christian hymnal, the first about 100 songs, maybe 60 or 70, they are more upward-oriented, more worship in themselves. And this older brother had this comment, and it was interesting. I had to laugh. And he helped me think about this. It's like the song leaders have only learned their songbook till about number 100 and doesn't go much further. So I learned from that comment that this wise man had, there's a place for worship, upward songs, but if it was only that, we might be lacking in the depth of the experience too, and the well-rounded everyday experience of the gospel, of the evangelical side. So you were giving us a few clues or a few hints as to here and now. What is one thing that everyone here today could benefit from when they go, and they can take that with them this Sunday morning when they go to sing, that would help them either sing better or, just one hint or one tip?
Well, I think this would depend on, this would be different for different people. I think when the scriptures talk about a sacrifice of praise, I'm not exactly sure what that means, except that there was a Jewish rabbi, even I think before Christ, who said that after the Messiah comes, the only sacrifice that remains is going to be the sacrifice of praise. And so sacrifice is giving something up. And I think when you come into worship and you're being called to sing, having the understanding that the congregational singing is not about me. It's not for me, though I benefit from it. That's not the primary thing. The primary thing is God commands us to sing, and we trust Him for the reward, whatever that is. Is it in this life? Is it in the next life? I think it's going to be in both. And so the attitude of it's about ministry. It's about worship to God, congregational singing, but it's also about ministry to each other. Let me tell you about this. Sometimes we sing songs that don't really fit our current experience. So you might come into church. Maybe you're just on fire for Jesus, and the song leader chooses, "Come ye disconsolate, where'er ye languish," and you're like, well, what is this? Or maybe it's the other way around. You could be just like, and let's face it, we're often more the other way because life is hard. Like there's hard things. Some of you are going through hard things right now, and I know it. And so we come to church, and something is hard. There's a pain. There's an anguish, and the song leader chooses "Walking in Sunlight, All of My Journey Over the Mountains." And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about singing today because this doesn't fit me at all. There's two things you should think about in a time when the song that you're singing doesn't seem to fit you. Number one, you're not singing to you. There are other people in church who need your song. If you are happy and you sing a sad song, there's somebody there who needs the sad song. If you are sad and there's a happy song, then rejoice with the person who's rejoicing. Weep with the person who's weeping. And by the way, there's a lot more than two kinds of songs, but I'm just rounding it off to the nearest. We don't have a lot of time. The other reason you should sing songs you don't care about, or that don't, sorry, I take that back. The other reason you should sing songs that don't fit you right now is because you're going to need them someday in the future. If you're not sad now, you're going to be someday. And if you are sad now, as was it Craig was here last night, Steiner, said, You may be sad now, but greener pastures do await. So sing for your future self as well. That would be my advice, is to think it's not about me, although I matter, but I'm singing as an act of ministry, not just as worship, but I'm singing as an act of ministry to my brothers and sisters and to my future self.
So we would love to hear about, you've mentioned in choir sometimes, you've mentioned in personal conversations, the magical musical moment and experience that we make. Would you tell us about a magical musical moment that you experienced?
Sure. I don't have a lot of time here, and so there was, a magical musical moment is a time when something happens musically. You could be an audience member at a concert, you could be listening to a recording, but I think of them especially when I'm singing. That's especially, and it's a time when you're involved in a music making experience that becomes transcendent. It's where you realize that you are blessed beyond measure to be able to do this. Transcendent is like otherworldly, like out of this world kind of experience. And the one I'll say was when about 2017. That's 7 years ago. My son Dante, who's 13 now, was 6. He had cancer, and he was going through cancer treatment. And it was treatable, and it was a hard journey, but not. I wouldn't call it, compared to other cancer journeys I've known about, I wouldn't call it a long one. But it was still, as a parent, you're terrified. A choir that I was conducting gave a program, and it was a community choir, so probably 60 adults singing. And we were in a church that was slammed. I mean, it was packed to the walls. It wasn't this big, so it was maybe this. I mean, it was hundreds of people were in this building. And in the last song, I was sitting up front because this was when Lloyd conducted the choir that I had prepared. So I didn't actually conduct at the concert. I was sitting in the front bench. My son Lucas was sitting beside me here, and Dante, no hair from his chemotherapy, sitting right here. But he's strong and he's healthy and healing and stuff. And the last song we sang, the congregation stood and the choir was there, and we sang, I think it was "It Is Well With My Soul," but I'm not sure what it was. And it was a moment that was just physically impactful in terms of the sound and the space, and thinking of my sons there right beside me, and I'm like, you can't buy this thing. What they're getting right now isn't for sale. These are moments that we try to give our children, but some of it we can't control. Some of it is circumstance. But that was a magical musical moment that was just like kind of hair raising in a good way. Yeah.
Yes, very good. We could. It's something that we cannot reproduce. It's not something that, like you mentioned, that we could buy. Yeah, and God gives us those moments. We have one question, one more minute, and yeah, just a minute. What would you say to all those who dream of writing a song someday? What can they do today already?
Well, you gotta know the nuts and bolts. Learn the craft. So most humans, I think all humans are artists in some way, in different levels. We are. That is part of how we are in the image of God. So the thing that makes humans different from animals is that humans create things. God is the creator, so humans create things. So the artistry, the desire to paint, the desire to make beauty, the desire to come into a Belizean jungle and form a farming community, that's art. Okay, but you cannot do that art without craft, without the skill, without the technical skill, without the learning from other people who have done it. I mean, some of it's trial and some of it's error, but I would say don't be afraid to do the grunt work of rudiments is hard. I told my students today, they were learning intervals, and it's just not exciting. There are 15 things that I can think of really quickly, and I won't. That would be much more exciting than that. But do the hard things, and that leads to better things.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the encouragement, and then we shall give the time over to Brother Wendell, the other Wendell.